and welcome to the Design Rescue Show, where we take a behind-the-scenes look at the unique journeys of creative professionals, and we learn about the choices they've made that have shaped their career paths. Hello, everyone. Thank you once again for joining us today. I am your host, David Block, and joining me today, I'm happy to welcome distinguished brand design fairy godmother, a trailblazer in human-centered branding, and an author of the book, The Human-Centered Brand, Nela Dunato. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. It's great to be here. It's really an honor to chat with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to getting into your career journey and hearing more about, how you got to where you are today. And, the show is basically behind the scenes, kind of a tour of your career. And so I like to go all the way back to the beginning. And I'm actually going to go a little bit further back than your schooling because I found a little piece of information. So is it true that when you were younger, that you started experimenting with Paint Shop Pro?
Oh, I started experimenting, even before Paint Shop Pro. Like that's the first actual image editing software I got my hands on. But even before that, I was playing with the most basic paintbrush app on, it was Windows 3.1. So very, very, very prehistoric kind of image editing. I was really, as soon as I got my hands on the first computer, I immediately tried to figure out, how do I make art on this thing? Because video games are fun, but I was also interested in image making. And so that was when I was about 11, 12 years old that I really started playing in that sort of way, in a more creative way. And by the time I got to Paint Shop Pro, that was oh, this is great. I want to do this all day, every day. And then, it started with other software that were coming out at the same time. Early Photoshop, early Corel, Macromedia Suite. It was a bunch of stuff at the same time going out with new features, new possibilities. And that is really what kind of got me started on this path, for sure.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's kind of the same with me. I remember getting into the early Paint Shop programs. And I'll be honest, I don't even remember the name of the program when I was in high school, but it was, we used now I'm talking 1984. And we had a daisy wheel printer, and the paper was on this giant roll. And so if we wanted to print anything, took forever. And oh yeah, it was great. So let's move on just a little bit. When you got into your schooling, I found out that you went to get a degree in electrical engineering. Is that correct? You went to the University of Rijeka in Croatia. Did I say that correctly?
That is my current hometown. Yes, it's the third biggest city in Croatia. Very small by American standards, but we're a small country. And I was essentially, when I was in school, I was interested in a lot of different things. And I was very STEM oriented from early age. I was doing math competitions. I got into the first computer science class when it was available in my school when I was 13. And then for high school, I chose a STEM oriented high school because simply that seemed like the reasonable option. I don't know. And I didn't really consider myself very artistically talented. I did enjoy making art. I did have a lot of fun doing that, but I didn't consider myself someone who could do visual arts for a living. I guess my family kind of took it for granted. Nobody really encouraged me to pursue that. But when they saw I'm good at math, they were like, yes, you're gonna kick ass at this. You're gonna make a lot of money. And that was kind of subtly a message that I was receiving on all the sides, was that engineering was kind of more prestigious or a more secure career option than any kind of creative option. But also, I was interested in video games at the time. So I thought, maybe I could be a video game developer / designer. And if I learned more about software engineering, maybe that would be helpful. And sadly, there wasn't really such a software engineering oriented program where I was living. So I thought, well, electrical engineering sounds kind of close, and unfortunately, it was not. I was kind of disappointed when I got there. It was all just, calculus and very little computer programming, maybe like one class per semester that was remotely related to what I was interested in. So I was mostly just kind of going through the motions when it came to education, but I did really use the networking opportunities of being there, just surrounded by other both professors and fellow students who always had some kind of projects going on that did require design. So I immediately got into a student group, which was they asked me, "Oh, you know how to design websites? Well, great. We need a new web designer. So will you be our new net web?" And so it was just whenever people heard that I knew how to make websites, which is what it was a sort of like an unusual skill, I suppose, at the time. Not everyone knew how to make them. And whenever people heard of it, "Oh, will you make a website for my side business? Will you make a website for our class, like for our course, so we can share materials with students?" Because back then, we didn't have the kind of open source software like Moodle and whatever is like these learning management systems. It was really just hacked together. Whoever had time to do that did the website for each individual course instead of having it all organized. And so I got really connected to people who later, 10 years, 15 years down the line, became my actual paying clients because they remembered me that there was this girl in engineering that didn't really want to be there, but was actually doing design in her spare time. So I would say, would I rather that I did go to art school? It would be probably more useful for developing the kind of skills that I want. But when it comes to connections and things like that, I would say making connections with engineers was actually very helpful for my career because they're really good clients for me, for my kind of personality, and for I understand their language, so we kind of know how to get on the same page. And they're always doing some interesting projects, like innovative projects or events or stuff. So, yeah, on one hand, yeah, didn't learn much that, but on the other hand, it was a fun experience in,
Right,
in
right.
many
And
other
so,
ways.
so being surrounded by engineers, yeah, and that's, they're very analytical, right? And so they're going to need somebody that has that creative sort of bent. So
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
always found myself like I'm either the most creative person among the engineers, or I'm the most kind of engineering minded person among artists. Whenever I'm kind of in this community, I always find that I'm like bridging the gap between these two areas. And it's kind of fun because, yeah, then I can share something that the other people don't really have that strength. So it is useful to kind of have both of those aspects present.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can totally see that. So I'd like you to talk about, oh, yes, there was an incident that I heard about that changed your career. When you emailed a web design agency to point out some issues that were going on with the Firefox browser, and it led
Yeah.
to sort of an unexpected job offer. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I was still a student then. So the good thing is that when you're a student, you can do contract work essentially through the university. They have kind of their administrative folks there who handle payroll and stuff like that. So students are actually very sought after for a lot of these jobs because the tax are lower on student workforce. And so I was already I would not advise this to any people nowadays because nowadays, if you do this, you will get blasted on social media. The people are gonna screenshot what you sent them, and everyone's gonna pile on you, and you may never, live this down. So I had the incredible luck that it was before the habits of the online discourse were such that people actually did share their personal correspondence. I will say I never had very great impulse control, and I'm kind of a complainer. And I think this is when a little knowledge gets into your head, and maybe especially when you're a young person, when you're like about 20 years of age, you think you're the smartest person ever because you know something that most people don't know, and it's that little youthful arrogance which fortunately did actually end good for me, but it could have ended badly just as well. So back then, there were these browser wars, as we call them, because each browser had a different engine. And so if you created a website that looked good in one browser, it looked kind of fell apart in a different one. So it was really, really challenging to design a website or actually code the website in the way that would look good on all the different browsers that would available at the time. And I found what I don't even know how I got on their website, but essentially the website looked broken in my browser that I was using, which was the minority browser at the time.
Yeah.
And I sent an email to this agency. How dare they charge for website design where they can't even design their own website properly because it's falling apart in a browser that is actually modern and common, and it was just something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it must have sounded like obnoxious, and it's so embarrassing. But the agency owner, I mean, he is like the most graceful guy. I need to check in to see what he's about and maybe send him a message or something, because that is the most surreal thing. So instead of just ignoring me, which probably I would have done on his place, or responding back in kind, just with this the same kind of energy that I was bringing into that conversation. He actually offered me to work for them because what he saw was, oh look, here's a very ambitious and kind of like a person who is young, who wants to do something, who has knowledge, enough knowledge to know that the website it'll need to look good, like in all browsers. He just said, "Oh, I know, website is really outdated. We don't have time to fix it because we have a lot of work for clients. But when we work for clients, we really do pay attention to that. So all of our client websites look as they should. And by the way, would you like to work with us? Because we do have a lot of work and not enough people. So it would be really cool if you come and join us." Essentially, I had a contract gig for multiple projects for a while. So I don't remember exactly how long that lasted, but it was several projects over the course of multiple months that they were sending me, like, we need a design for this kind of client. They send me a brief. I would design it first visually, they would approve, and then I would then code it to look good in all different browsers and send them the code. And then they would continue on with other type of development. And so that was really when I learned that, wow, I could get a crack at this. I could actually do this for a living, which before that didn't even seem like an option. I thought it was only going to be like a hobby, like something that I would be doing for friends and family, but never something like on a bigger scale. But this was like, oh, wow, I guess I'm actually employable for this skill, and I'm not even done with school. So wow, that. And then from then on, I think I really poured in most of my energy into improving my design skills and getting my work out there, and looking for work more, because it was just more fun than studying engineering. And so I was not a very good student, not even before that, but after that, especially because I was just spending as much time as possible doing this kind of work instead of my coursework, uh, which, again, not something that I do recommend, but it did work out all right for me.
I see. So, did you go through the whole electrical engineering program, or did you stop at some point? How did that go?
Yeah, I did stop at one point, and that's a funny story. So I had two exams left and some kind of final thesis to do, and I was just burnt out on this. It was just a slog, and emotionally, I was kind of feeling done with it. I had a job which was a part-time job at a company, like as an in-house designer. At that time, it was about a year or two. I think I was there. I was studying and working. I was like a part-time student, part-time worker.
Yeah, yeah.
And at one point, I was like, I just can't handle this anymore. And so I essentially just ended my studies then, but I may actually go and get my degree. But that's still that's in the works. But I'm actually talking to my some of my former professors who are now like really they are the ones who are deciding whether I can do that or not, and they're really open to getting me back just to get that degree. Just not because I need it, but it's like, well, I can handle it now. Like emotionally, I'm not. I kind of expelled all that energy of disappointment from those years, and now I can get there as a more mature person with a mission.
Right.
Uh, yeah, but I just switched from part-time work to full-time work, and it was just design from then on, and I did not regret it. Like I really do think that at the time it was the best decision for me.
If you're enjoying this video, please take a moment to hit that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right. So then in the beginning of your freelance journey, I'm sure, you found, just like all of us have found, how tough it is to, turn your passion for design into a career, a profession, is challenging. It's challenging, especially when you're dealing with having to deal with clients, um, having to present your work, get critiqued, and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm curious if you could share a client project that taught you an important lesson about balancing your creative ideals with the business realities.
Well, I think every project kind of taught me a bit of that. So it's, some clients, some projects and clients taught me more about the importance of just really getting your stuff in order, just getting your contracts in order, just not assuming anything. There are projects that taught me that not everyone should be your client. So maybe that's one of the most difficult lessons, is that this wasn't so early. I think this was, let's say, first I started freelancing twice. So I started freelancing when I was 19, and then I started freelancing again in 2013, 2014, because that's when I left my last full-time job.
Mhm.
And so the second time it was harder because now I had to do it full. Now I had to support myself, because the first time I was just a student. It was like fun money. It was just you know, to buy clothes and computers and stuff. Not, I didn't have to like pay rent or anything. But this time I had to really do it seriously. And so those early for few years were just lesson after lesson after lesson. And I think one of those lessons that really hit me really hard was a client where we had a really messy just fallout, which I think could have been avoided if I just trusted my gut when it told me this dude is going to be a problem. and
Uh,
and the first time we spoke on the phone, I had that feeling.
yeah.
But I thought, but they have a cool product. I can get behind their mission. I thought that we had kind of similar values, and we might as well, but the communication style that they have and that I have, and the kind of essentially I came into it from a position of trust and just some kind of expectations that were more like, okay, we can resolve anything and we can talk about anything, and they were like, yeah, sure, everything's fine. But then whenever we had kind of a disagreement or anything, they became very, very just like blockading me, just like becoming very standoffish, very demanding, just not a very collaborative vibe, like we were antagonists essentially. And I was really taken aback with that, because I thought we were cool. Like, what is going on? And then after a while, I decided, okay, I'm not going to push this issue. The issue was about whether I can use the logo in my portfolio, and they were really against it for reasons that I still don't understand. I think they really are not really familiar with how these things work. But okay, fine. I just decided to let it go. But after that, I thought, wow, this can't happen again. That to if I have a feeling that someone is going to be a problem, then I'm not going to make it my problem. I really should just the thing is, when you don't know if you how you're going to make your ends meet, then you're feeling this pressure that you have to take on every project. That and that was where I was at the time. I was, I had a loan I had to pay off. I had just the business was just trickling in. It wasn't like I didn't I was doing smaller projects, so I wasn't like set for 2 months in advance or so. It was just sometimes week by week, and sometimes it was like a full month or maybe 2 months tops. And I was just jumping on every opportunity. And after that, I thought, well, this just isn't worth it. This just isn't worth it. I lost a week of work because I was just unable to work. I was, just crying on my couch and just trying to just get my bearings because it really shook me. It was really just, it never happened to me before or since. So I thought, well, this can't be just a me problem. I mean, this person did have some issues, but I also thought I have to protect myself. I just have to never allow to let the hunger, the desire for work push me into a business engagement, which is a very serious thing,
Right.
with a person that I inherently don't know if I can trust, or that is giving off red flags. And red flags can be anything. I mean, a lot of people, we do try to give others the benefit of the doubt. We try to think that everyone is like in it for, I mean, everyone can have the best intentions, but still their stuff, their emotional stuff, or their maybe they got hurt in the past, maybe they got played by someone else, and now they're extra firm about everything and are giving you like 30 pages contracts to sign. And now I'm like, well, I'm just not going to engage in that. And it also kind of gave me, just, well, what can be worse than this? This is really my worst case scenario, that the client and I had such a disagreement that we are now, like, I blocked him everywhere. Like, just, we sent, the last communication we had was just sending certified mail, just snail mail with just some documentation signed. So I thought, wow, I mean, if I live through this, I can live through anything. And I just decided to kind of just work with people who are really nice people, who we don't have to be best friends. We don't have to know about each other's personal life or anything, but just that when we talk, when we discuss things, that it's a good vibe, really. And yeah, even if they're not satisfied.
So I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's kind of like you want somebody who's going to be a team with you. It's going to be working with you, not against you.
Yeah, and I think clients want that too. Like, the clients also want to have a pleasant relationship. The problem is that some clients tend to be very authoritarian. They treat designers like they're their underlings, and I'm entering into every relationship as a partner. Like, we're doing this. We have, like, I have my business, you have yours. I want to help you, but I'm not your employee. You're not telling me what to do. We are, like, you hired me because you trust me as a consultant, as someone who's here to help your business. But I'm not going to just take everything you say as a given. I also have my own reasons why I think, something is a good decision, something is not a good decision also. But for me, it's also just this feeling that when you talk to someone, that you're having a pleasant interaction. And like with you, just from the first minute, I was having a pleasant interaction, even though we've never met before. So it's, with some people, you can just see that it clicks. And I think it's really important to trust that sense of, just trust your instinct about people, because you have developed that through experience. And if you're young, then it's going to be a bit underdeveloped still. But over the years, when you're in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond, you are honing it in, and then you can trust it more and more. So I think that is actually a key lesson that I do make sure to take heart, like, even now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and navigating through those issues, and if you could actually live and stay alive in the industry after you've gone through those sort of issues, then you are better for it. And as you said, you haven't experienced that sort of an experience that sort of abusive relationship since,
Yeah.
right? So you don't allow that to happen to yourself. That's fantastic. And that's pure growth. I love that. That's great. So moving on a little bit, I would like to talk about some of the work in your portfolio. You've got a wonderfully diverse portfolio. You have clients that are, spanning from, let's see, the agricultural industry. Like I believe that's what this particular client, AgriBioCert Cooperative, is that right? Yeah, in the
Yeah.
agricultural industry. And then the educational platform that you made called Eduza. Did I say that
Yeah.
right?
Eduza, yeah, Eduza is how we say it in Croatian. Yeah, it's actually one of my colleagues' project, and it was super fun. Yeah, so it is a wide spectrum. I do kind of have a specialization, but I don't. If something is a good project, I will not turn it away because I think it would be a great project to work on. Yeah, for I am kind of working mostly with consultants and kind of small businesses that are offering services because I think that is where my strengths lie, how to help those people the best. But I did work with a university, with a governmental organization, or I should say, like a division of a Croatian Ministry of Labor. And there was also this certification program for organic agriculture. And so, yeah, it's kind of a wide spectrum. And I just don't want to niche myself too narrow because I think that would lead me to boredom.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people say like, oh, you got a niche, you got to find your niche, and then you're gonna get in that niche and be like, I know people who are great like band logo designers, or they are, in a specific like IT products, like apps or so. But I would just be bored out of my mind if I were working in a single industry all the time. And that's one thing that when you learn about yourself, it's good to know that, oh, I like variety. So yeah, that's why I am kind of a bit all over the place with that.
Well, absolutely. I love your portfolio. My question is, how do you balance the diverse needs of all of these varied clients with your principles of human-centered branding?
You think that those principles tend to be universal. So I mean that's my theory. I did kind of design this, I would say, a model or this theory. It's not entirely invented. I kind of patched things together that I learned from other business thinkers, from psychology, from other from design. Essentially, I mean, there is all of that is kind of that I was developing over the years. First, just instinctively, but then I was trying to get it on paper. And what I found is that really what people want to do, people want to communicate. They want to communicate their own values, their worldview, how they see the world, how they see their own business. And then they want to communicate to certain people. So who are those people? And also, how are they unique? Like, how is this business different from every other in the same niche, in the same industry? And those are all pretty universal aspects. Now, you can kind of go into more detail. You can do a lot of, like, every business does have specific needs, but I see that most businesses, I mean, every business that I've worked with would actually benefit from knowing these things about themselves. So, what are your team or your personal, if you're a solo business, what's your personal core values? If you're a team, what are your common values? What are you actually trying to achieve in the world? And then what makes you different? Pretty straightforward, because if you don't know what makes you different, why would your clients buy anything from you? Why would they trust that you will show them or give them something different from everyone else? And also, like, who are we actually talking to? So I like to boil things down to essentials that can be applied to a wide spectrum of situations. And that is really how I managed to do that, because I don't like to complicate things, and I think my clients really appreciate that. When we talk about these things, they're deep. Like they do require some thought. They do require just sitting with yourself and just pulling things out. And I mean on the client side, like when they're giving me this material that I need to work with, they have to figure out what it is. I'm there to help them, but I can't think it up for them because that is really their decision, their responsibility as a business owner or as an organization leader or as someone who is like a part of a greater organization but is essentially the voice for that organization. And then that is a material that I take then and get inspired by. So I just want to hear it from my clients' mouths, like what is it that you actually do, and then I see how I'm interpreting it, what is it raising for me, like, and usually I will have some insights about them as an outsider that they did not think about, and then so they will be surprised by those kind of insights, which is great for me, like that I am actually showing them something, discovering something to them that they weren't really, they'd never thought of. But it all starts with what is their essence. And for me, I think I'm really interested in human psychology. I'm really interested in what makes people motivated to do what they do. Like, how do you, the biggest, I think the most important thing for sustainability of a certain business is that you are motivated to keep it going, even when it's hard. And usually it's hardest in the beginning. And so when I hear their stories, what really motivates them, that inspires me to create designs that will do their work justice. And like people are people. Like, yes, we have different values, we have different priorities, we are motivated by different things, but it's just everyone will find something. And if they're not the sort of people who want to do that sort of work, then I don't do that sort of work with them. So sometimes, like when it's a big org and they just want to get things done and don't want to spend a day in a workshop, then I'll just work with what we have and I'll make the connections myself. But when a client is open to this kind of deep work, and that will ultimately be helpful for them because they can use this knowledge later for stuff that is unrelated to design. They can use it to write their website copy. They can use it to figure out their tagline, whatever. Like it is really, really applicable to various forms of business communication, not just design. But essentially, I offer an like, would you like to do this way, or would you like to take the shortcut? And if they want to take the shortcut, that's fine. Like I don't mind. But I do think that we get to more interesting solutions, more unexpected, more original solutions when we do this deep work first, because then you kind of mine for these things that are below the surface, that are not obvious, and that probably at a first glance you wouldn't think of. And I think those ideas are the most creative, the most interesting, and probably will the clients can connect with those solutions more emotionally.
That's awesome. That's really insightful, and that's something that I think as designers we all kind of touch on the psychology, and we have to understand how our work is affecting and how people are motivated by the things that we do. So that's very, very important. Next, I wanted to talk about the ESF Plus program. Was that first of all, that was a brand identity that was a redesign, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's ESF stands for European Social Fund, which is essentially on the whole European Union has this European Social Fund that is essentially offering money to individual countries. And so each country has their own European Social Fund divided into a multiple like essentially, okay, there's a funding for social causes, there's funding for agriculture. So like every domain has their own funding. And the social fund is essentially a subdivision of the Croatian Ministry of Labor and Social Policy. Mm-hmm. And so that was probably my highest profile project to date because like it's not something that every person would know about, but if you're in those, if you are working with those organizations who are getting the funding from them, then you will have seen that logo. It's very important in certain circles. So it was they reached out to me. So we had like a little bidding first. So they extended invitations to a couple of different agencies, and including myself, and they chose me for the project. And the design, essentially what they told me at the time is uh, our design is not practical for use. So they had issues scaling it down to smaller size. It was the shape of the design was not very so if someone goes to the website and actually sees the old logo and the new logo, then you will see what I mean. Essentially, they didn't have a lot of variants of the logo. They were missing, the negative to use on a dark background. The logo essentially was the stacked. It had a stacked composition. It didn't have a kind of more of a horizontal composition, which is more practical for some purposes, especially if you want to put it in your website header and so on. And so that is the problem that they said. And I was like, okay, well, how open are you to changing? Like, what are you open to changing? That's something that I always ask when we have a design that is already has been used for years and that people are familiar with. So that logo got a lot of it has a big footprint because people are seeing it on posters all over Croatia. It's on many websites, like it's in the footer of websites that were funded by like all the projects that were funded by this ESF fund. So essentially, it was a big responsibility to create the new design that would improve on the existing solution. And so what I actually did when they said like, okay, we don't mind, if you change some things, if you make it visually like if you design it a little nicer, but essentially they did like this little pinwheel symbol, which I like as well. I think it's a good symbol. It has like a shape of a human, like a partly human, partly pinwheel, and essentially what I did, I first wanted to make it all geometrical because, as I said, an engineer's mind, when like there are free form designs and there are designs that are more geometric, and I can do both. But in this case, I thought this needs more geometry because it was kind of looking a bit wonky. No offense to the designer who did the original version. I think the idea is nice, but I thought technically it could be a lot better. And I stuck with the same colors, but then during the kind of iteration process, there was like, oh, maybe we could add another color. Maybe we could add this green because it actually, they wanted to make it more colorful, which would not have been my first choice. But again, uh, it still looks cool. It looks okay regarding the colors. And so essentially what I did, it was really important to make it practical, to make it usable. So we have three different variants. So one is the stacked variant, which is very tall, very looks good on like roll up banners and stuff like that. But I'm not going to put it on the website because that is huge. Then we have like the horizontal version, which is for most other purposes. And then we had a really shorthand, which is just the acronym and the symbol. And that is if you want to print it on a pen or a lanyard or stuff like that, where you don't have a lot of room, USB sticks, stuff like that. So give, because they are producing a lot of these, they're making a lot of events. And then for these events, they're producing a lot of these freebies that they're giving to their users, essentially, who are present for these programs and so on. So that was a huge project because I had to figure out how is this going to look on an umbrella? How is this going to look on a paper bag? How is this going to look on a tote bag? And all the different things. Vehicles, like what have you. I can't even count all the things that we did for that project because it was really important for them just to be able to put it on anything. And I think that with this design that I created, they really do have that option because they have 4 color variants and 3 composition variants. And that is a lot when you multiply all that. That's probably in the hundreds of different combinations of each. And usually bigger projects like that we get so many variants, like so many. So logo is never just one logo. That is really kind of the point that I think every logo designer and brand designer should learn as early as possible, is that you don't design one logo, you design several variants, and they can be color variants, they can be compositional variants. Ideally, you have a few of both. And so the client has the freedom to apply the logo on wherever they need, whether it's a screen printed t-shirt, so you can only have one color solid, or whether it's on a huge billboard. So got to make it interesting enough so that it looks nice when it's blown up, but also something that can fit on a pen. I mean, it's a challenge for sure, but I think that is why not everyone can do this work. Like that is one of the things that is more difficult about our work, but also it's one of the things that make our work valuable, like what makes us as designers valuable, because we know how to solve those problems. We trained to be able to do that.
Right, right. That's exactly true. And what's so interesting is looking at that project and comparing to, the rest of your portfolio. I really see that as an evolution, especially from the days of when you did the web design back at university, right, all the way to now. Huge evolution of your skill set, and I think it came out fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that was the biggest project. I worked 3 months on that project, and I worked every day of the first 3 months. I mean, I had weekends off, but every work day I was working on that project. It was no slacking off. So it really was, but it also gave me the confidence to know, wow, I can do projects of this sort. I did not know that. I mean, I suspected that I can, but now I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do it. I can do anything.
And you've got that confidence, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you only get confidence through trying things out and seeing if it works. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right. That's so, Nela. First of all, thank you again for being here. We've come all the way to the end of the conversation. I've got one final question for you, and that is, I would like to know, based on your experiences and your career journey, what advice would you offer new designers about harmonizing their artistic passion with the practical demands of client work?
Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, that's the balance that is it's an ongoing challenge for sure, but I think it's very helpful for any designer to have, first of all, their own creative practice where you can be free. So whether it's drawing your sketchbook or designing t-shirts for yourself that you're going to sell on some print on demand website, or just have something that is just for you, where you can explore your creative voice without the demands of clients, because this is where you might find something new that then you want to offer to your clients that your clients may not even know that they want. So for me, every time I find myself in a lull or on a plateau when it comes to my client work, I will find something new to learn in my own time. And so that's how I really started. I started hand lettering just as a fun thing. And then I had opportunities where I could actually use hand lettering in my logo design. And I mean, even just starting to design logos, I started off as a website designer. So it also was something that I started because I thought it was really interesting for me. And then I started designing that more and more, practicing on my own projects. And so when people saw those projects, they were like, okay, maybe she can design her own logo as well. And so first of all, don't always try to push your creative vision into client projects just by force. Just put all those ideas somewhere. Just put them wherever you can, in your sketchbook, on papers, on tablets, whatever you're sketching with. But also then show clients what's possible, because sometimes clients will have their own vision of what they might think they want, and you can always try to share a vision that you have that they may not have. But of course, you need to know that really this is appropriate for the business. So don't try to force, a kind of black metal logo for a store that sells soaps and like shampoos, because that's not going to work unless that's the vibe that they're going for. Like, you really need to know what kind of audience you're working with and so on. So it's good to be courageous. It's good to be brave, and also going that extra mile. So something that I like to do when I work, my clients, they want a logo, they want a brand style guide, and that's usually what they would be happy with. Maybe they want me to design some of their like stationery or social media graphics and so on. But it's like to kind of go the extra mile and maybe create some patterns or some background textures or some little icons, illustrations in addition. And I mean, the trick with that is you have to charge enough money that you do, when you do that kind of thing, you still feel like you're well compensated for what you are doing. So you're not undercutting yourself. But I always like to do a little something unexpected that the client can see and like, oh, wow, this actually does look cool. And we didn't even know that we needed that. And so that way you do give them what they want. You do give them what is, appropriate for their line of work, for their clientele, but then also show them what it would look like if we would like spiced up a bit. And I don't do usually multiple logo proposals in that I show them like a option one, option two, and now you choose which one you like. I did have a phase when I was doing that, but I stopped doing it. And now I just show them one, and then we discuss it and we see what we're going to do in the next revision. But if you are making options, if you if that is a part of your process, then make one of those options the most creative, wild thing you can think of, something that you may think they would not choose for themselves, but maybe something that you see is really needed because it is different, it is original, it is unexpected, and that the audience would probably like. And then show them a more kind of conservative version and see, maybe someone actually bites, maybe someone actually takes the more interesting version. But I think first of all, we really do need to hone our own creative practice, because it's just really fun to create when no one expects you to. Because sometimes the expectations that others place on us can feel like pressure, and it can cause a bit of anxiety. Even when you're doing great work, it can still feel a bit, like showing that to your client for the first time, what you created for them, it can be a bit unnerving. But when you're just having fun, it's a very relaxing thing, and then your creativity can flow a bit more freely when you're in that state that is very open and you're not censoring yourself. And the more you spend in that place, the more you are getting in touch with that kind of free creativity. I think your client work will also be more creative because it is going to feed from that place. I mean, one thing flows into another.
Right.
But I think it is really important to still have something personal, something that is just your own, that you don't value by the amount of money you can make from that. Because I think also that is one of the potential traps that we can have as designers, that we value our success and our skill based on how much money we earn. But when you're doing something that is just for free, that is just for you, then you can kind of uncouple that from the financial aspect. Because I think that is one of the kind of detriments of working in capitalism, is that we kind of attach our worth to our financial success. And that really shouldn't be, I mean, if you're passionate about your work, then the best way to keep that passion is to find value in it, even when you are not making money. I think that is kind of that was helpful for me. So hopefully it would be helpful for other people as well.
Absolutely. That's fantastic advice. Thank you so much. And once again, I really appreciate your time and having you here. It's been really a great conversation. I've enjoyed getting to know you and hearing your story. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, David. It was fun. The time flew by. Wow, yeah. I hope we didn't go on for too long. I hope people will have the patience to watch until the very end.
I know they
Thank you.
will.
It's been great, and yeah. I mean, best of everything with your show. It's wonderful what you're doing, and yeah, all your projects look like really you are doing this like very with a lot of passion, and I love when people are doing that.